Record to iCloud. Okay. Hello, everyone. We are fortunate to have our special speaker, Bob Howe, on tonight to talk about everything you need to know about Prysm so that you will understand and have questions. And tomorrow we have Dr. Joe Chan, and you can ask him whatever you hear today, that you have questions and you can ask him. So we are so fortunate. Welcome, Bob Howe from Hawaii. You're on, Bob.
Hello.
Aloha. You need to change your slide so it doesn't show the left. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
I think, Marguerite, how are you? This is me. I don't think your recording is on. Didn't hear the record meeting.
That's what I don't understand. I thought.
I see Rosalind's here. Maybe she
Recording in progress.
There we go.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is an exciting night. We're going to have Bob Howe, one of our favorite speakers from Hawaii, to help us understand more about Prysm. And so that you know it, you're ready to understand more and ask questions tomorrow when Dr. Joe Chan gets on. So there's Bob.
I feel like I am the local garage band as the warm-up before the Beatles or something. Next is Dr. Joe Chang. Who's this? So anyway.
Bob's one of our favorite guys.
Yeah, I'm honored. So let's see if this is working. It's not.
It is. We see you. We see everything.
Okay, good. All right. So we're going to talk about the Prysm, the science, the best practices, some tips, and let's get going. So I'm Bionic Bob. I live in Honolulu. It's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it. We used to call them Hawaiian Blue Diamonds. I think we call them Team Elites, a few on this call. So this is a poster that I put up in next to the Prysm, and it's "You deserve to know." That's kind of the tagline that corporate is using, and I use a lot as well. So let's go quickly into the history. So Prysm measures something called carotenoids. What are carotenoids? They're antioxidants. We'll get into that. But the most famous of the carotenoids, there's over, I think, something like 143 or more of them, is beta carotene from carrots. So if you're Bugs Bunny, you're going to score very well on the Prysm. And there was a study in the late 90s at the Moran Eye Institute of carotenoids preventing something called macular degeneration. The NIH sponsored this study. They actually ran the study. They published studies in a database called PubMed.gov, but they rarely run studies themselves. This was so important because 2/3 of us as we age will lose our vision. And we don't die like cancer and heart disease. In fact, we have to be taken care of, which takes someone out of the workforce to write our checks and drive them around. But it was shown that carotenoids stop this thing. This is a real issue in Hawaii because of all the sunshine we enjoy here. So it was there was 2 studies: ARIDS, age-related eye disease 1 and 2. And then there's been further studies on it. Probably the most published expert is Professor John Nolan, who's extended the carotenoid research to the brain. And what some eye practices have noticed over time is that those who get AMD get Alzheimer's at a far higher rate. And he's pinpointed the carotenoid that seems to do the best protection. It's something called lutein. It's from marigolds. They have that yellow gold petal because they filter out all UV. And so we're really starting to extend. Soon after the eye studies, there was UV damage in Australia, where they had an ozone layer back then, an ozone hole due to aerosols and thinning the atmosphere. And Australia was going to be ground zero for skin cancer. And they found that actually drinking your antioxidants, your carotenoids, was more effective than topical sunblock. Please don't tell the dermatologist, I don't need any sunblock. They will crucify me. But basically, if you're driving, if you're not stand-up paddling in Hawaii, but just driving on the H1 freeway here, you just need to drink some of our carotenoid supplements and don't need to lather on so much sunblock. But it's a good thing to do anyway. And over time, there's over 1,600 studies in PubMed.gov on all sorts of chronic diseases. And we actually measure, we have the only device that can actually measure your skin carotenoids and basically your carotenoids through your whole body. And we've been doing this for 22 years, 23 years now. And then we've upgraded the scan technology. It used to be something called Raman spectroscopy. It's not named after soup noodles, but after Dr. C.V. Raman, a Malaysian of Indian extraction, who discovered that you shine a coherent light into any surface and it'll pick up the resonant frequency of that surface. So we used it in that predecessor scanner to measure the presence of carotenoids. This is a slightly more sophisticated scan technology. I won't go into it, but it's going to allow us to measure more than just carotenoids. And over time, we're going to measure skin collagen, anthocyanins, which is about gut health, and something like 6 or 7 other biomarkers under active research. Now, first of all, does this thing work? Is this really a scam? And it's not. We have done studies showing a correlation, very high correlation, with something called a SpectraCell, which is a serum blood draw. And it's basically as accurate as that. And that's what, I tell some of my doctors who are doing this, you can send away for 2 weeks, get a SpectraCell number. Now, we don't track, zinc and magnesium and some of the minerals that the SpectraCell can get, but it measures carotenoids very, very accurately. So that's the first thing. Is this a valid, is this device valid and worth putting, my finger on? And yes, it is. And then, the studies on carotenoids, as I said, have just piled up, such that the NIH has published this, that basically it's correlate, having high levels of antioxidants and carotenoids means you have a better what they call it all-cause mortality, which is another way of saying you're going to live longer and better. And these are just, some of the studies. It is absolutely incontrovertible now with all of these studies that this is probably the most important biomarker. If you look at, blood pressure, well, actually, you're going to have lower blood pressure if you have high carotenoids. Blood sugar, well, you're going to have better levels of blood sugar if you have high carotenoids. It seems to be incredibly causal for every other thing. So, these are just some of the specialties that I, show the Prysm to and remind them how important it is. Even OBGYNs who say, I'm just care about a healthy pregnancy. Well, the data shows that healthy pregnancy improves and lactation and infant health improve if the mother has a high level of carotenoids. This is interesting. Again, the neurologist, it's not just lower levels of Alzheimer's, but there's higher cognition in a 2-year-old. So, Gerber, stewed carrots, maybe you should actually, grind up and stew your own carrots for freshness and give it to your 2-year-old. In the university students, 10 years later, where they have higher carotenoids, are earning more money and they have a higher IQ. And Kapuna, or Hawaiian for older people, it's absolutely compelling how carotenoids affect cognition. So let me review this. This is we're going to go back to Antioxidants 101. So our body's under constant attack by something called free radicals. And these are not protesters in Minneapolis or Portland or Berkeley in the late 60s. Free radicals are charged particles. They're created by combustion, even in the mitochondria, the combustion of oxygen and calories. About 5% of those reactions are busted and create an oxygen radical. And what it is, it's missing an electron. And what it does is it steals an electron from a neighboring molecule, creating a free radical there. It's a chain reaction that hits our cells, every cell in our body, 75,000 times a day. This is how we age. And basically, it's rusting. If you cut an apple and leave it out for 30 minutes, it turns brown, and that's oxidation. So how do you prevent that? The best source is fresh fruits and vegetables. Mom was right. You need to eat your vegetables, honey. And the recommended servings, it used to be 4 to 5, but now they're 7 to 9 and even higher. most Americans do not eat that. And, we will talk about some of the scan scores, which show how some cultures have healthier diets than we are. The problem with fresh fruits and vegetables is the nutrition in our crops has fallen 90% in 100 years, at least in the US. And everyone's been copying our agriculture because it is so. Sorry, I'm getting all these calls. They wait until I go onto a Zoom call and call. Um, let me turn the if I can, should turn that down. And the nutrition on crops is, we grow more crops, but we're less in them. And this has been a real problem. So, oh, well, I take supplements already. People say, I mean, supplements should fill the gap. But the problem is, and a lot of us do, after COVID, 75% of us do, but we have no idea if they're working. And most are not. We have a septic tank. We're going to have to upgrade in a couple of years to get on the sewer system of Honolulu City. And it was clean, it's cleaned about every 5 years. Wonderful job. And the guy who came last time said, "You don't take vitamins, do you?" And I said, well, "Actually, we take a lot." It says they're usually just covering the bottom of the septic tank. So, most of this stuff just goes straight through us. The problem is it's an unregulated industry. There's over 1,800 brands. And really, Prysm tells us two things. I mean, should we take supplements? Is our nutrition good? And if we're taking supplements, are they working? It's the first one that does that. So it's very easy to use. It's an app on our phone. Download it on an Android or an Apple device and put your finger on it. There's instructions on how to set it up there in the app. You need to have an account with Nu Skin to do so. And to scan other people, you have to be a brand affiliate, meaning you can actually earn income, because some people can order if you scan other people and they respond to the email that's sent. Sometimes they order, and in order to sponsor other people to order, you have to be at that level. But if you're just a retail customer, you can scan yourself. So higher is better. If you're down in the red there at around, what's that, around 7 o'clock on the clock there on the image on the phone, you're not doing so well. You're an F. You're not going to die tomorrow. Nobody gets out of here alive, but you are much more likely to have a troubled, last 10, 20 years of your life. And purple is an A+. We'll go into some of the demographics of this. So what are the recommendations? They're pretty clear. Over the last 2 years, we used big data and AI to look at our 26 million scans, 18 million individuals. It's the largest database in the history of the human race for at least one biomarker. And there will be more, as I've said, that are coming. This is an issue for a lot of us. Particularly if we're running a Nu Skin business and doing other things in our busy lives. Sleep is actually the number 2 thing. Number 1 is to not smoke and to limit our exposure to pollution. Those are free radicals. There's 75 million free radicals in one stick of cigarette. It's just a great delivery mechanism of death. Exercise, this is all, and then watch our weight. And, we have products for that are fantastic. The number 1 weight management in Singapore, for instance. Have a diet rich in fresh fruits and vegetables. Pay attention to where we buy them. Farmers markets, the fresher, the better. And we say, we'll consider a high quality supplement because some of the issues with our nutrition, our crops. And I've added this: if you're flying, every 3 hours at altitude is a full chest X-ray of radiation. And if you Google flight attendants and cancer, the studies go on for hundreds of pages. Corporate doesn't say that, but I do. So why Pharmanex? There's 1,800 brands on the market. What differentiates us? We have a lot of people working on the problem. It's basically a big pharmaceutical company focused on prevention and not on curing. And the advisory board's amazing. Some of the people, it's really a who's who in anti-aging. So we're the only supplement. I think there was one other actually. That was listed in the physician's desk reference. I don't think we are anymore. It's been less important, but for decades, because of the clinical trials and safety efficacy, we're in the PDR. Which, when American physicians say, why, I just say PDR. And the National Standards Foundation, we are certified pure to label contaminant free. We're ISO 6002 or whatever, which is, very, very, very pure, very, very effective manufacturing. And this is my karaoke moment always. So we're the only supplement brand for the whole U.S. Olympic team that was chosen 5 golden rings. And I think one supplement was chosen by the U.S. bobsled team. They spent about 3 years. They made some interesting suggestions to improve our products, but we did power the whole U.S. Olympic team. And that's important because when they get to the Olympic Village, they get a box of goodies from all the sponsors. And if they're taking our supplements, our life pack for free, it can make the difference between a gold medal and no medal. If they're taking something not so good, maybe no medal. So, what are the 6S selection? I'll go through this with green tea. So we choose green tea because it's a very powerful antioxidant. There's lots of clinical studies on green tea and cancer and all kinds of maladies, and including SARS and COVID, by the way. So where is the green tea grown? Is it grown next to a battery factory in Guangzhou? Ours is grown in Zhejiang province, I think it's 150 miles from any industrial activity. They test and send us samples weekly of the soil. We don't, trust but verify. We fly in twice a year, surprise, and do that testing ourselves. We know what part of the green tea, instead of twigs and seeds, which you're getting from some of the commercial green tea that you're going to buy, it's the thin edge of the baby leaf. And so it's harvested in, kind of an expensive hand. We don't have robots going out in the fields yet to pick them. It's humans, a little bit like picking raspberries or saffron. It's a very, very labor intensive process to do it right. Standardization. Each capsule has 250 milligrams in green tea. And the U.S. Nutrition Council went into the retail channel and pulled brands and measured them, and they're very wide variations and some contaminants that are out there in your retail shelves. Safety, every single batch is screened. And we have the most expensive screening machinery on the planet. It's about a $10 million device. You can go and visit us in Provo and see one of them. And we also test, if you have if you pop a whole bottle of our green tea, you'll have a green BM the next day, but you're going to be fine. You're going to be safe. And we were really big on substantiation, double-blind, crossover, placebo-controlled, independent, peer-reviewed, and journal-published clinical studies. That's a mouthful, but no one else is doing this, and it is the gold standard. And lastly, we have a line called AgeLock, and we're the only ones who use something called gene expression in ingredient discovery. And what does that mean? It means that we test each ingredient using Affymetrix gene chips to see how it affects it at a genetic level. No one else is doing this outside of big pharma in developing some very sophisticated drugs. But on the left is gene expression when we're young, and then as we get older, it all goes pear-shaped, as my English friends say. And what we're able to do with AgeLock is use mostly natural ingredients, and we get with all of our products, a 92% gene heat map match with a younger function, meaning it turns you younger. And that's my tagline in BNI when I'm going to meetings there. AgeLock, we age you younger. And it's true. So in terms of general wellness, these are the products. We've just released this in the US, and I think it's coming to Asian countries very soon. It's the most basic. We're struggling in the US with something called affordability. This is a little over $1 a day, $42 retail. I think wholesale is $35. And it's 3 capsules once a day. And most people, can you afford $1 a day to invest in your health? The next level up would be the Life Pack. It's around $90 wholesale. And your prices are going to vary by country. And then the next level up would be the AgeLock, for gene expression to age you younger. And this has a lot of the ingredients, and it has 3 of the most important carotenoids, including that lutein. These are retail prices, and we encourage the subscription. I'll get to that in terms of best practices. I run an eye practice in a med spa on the Big Island. It's been a struggle with insurance, and and just running anything brick and mortar. But these are some of the solutions for eyes. So our top recommendation at Eyeland Wellness is this, which is lutein, yes, for the eyes and the brain and all of that. But it also is the only collagen on the market that actually works. Collagen is the most popular supplement in the world. It's sold by the pallet load. I'm talking about oral collagen, not topical collagen that you put on your skin, but drinking collagen or having a powder and putting it in your smoothie. It's sold by the pallet load at Costco and Sam's, and it doesn't work. We've done punch biopsies on the leading brand and about 50 others. The leading brand is Vital Proteins, which is a protein shake with collagen. And it's about a 3 to 6% increase over your lifetime. Well, we lose, 1 to 2% of collagen a year from age 20. This is why we wrinkle and our hair gets brittle and our nails break and our joints hurt. And this is an unprecedented, and we did independent peer-reviewed clinicals, journal published again at Duke University, 65% increase. So it's a 10 to 20 times improvement versus the competition in collagen. So there's the collagen. This is a mother-in-law of an esthetician friend of mine. It works. And then look at the lutein. This is a younger woman, so you don't think she needs collagen. Well, there's collagen benefits really for anyone from about age 25 or 30. But she has this pigmentation, and you Asians, which you never wrinkle, you Asians on the call, darn you. It's really about pigmentation for you. You tend to get, these age spots, and again, they fade. And this is the blonde. You can see her little beauty mark starting to fade, and it also is. The lutein is so. This one's just a great crossover product. If there's one thing you do to look and be younger and protect your health, it's our collagen. And it is now our top selling product globally. In Argentina, it was the only product for a while. And Argentines, Latin Americans, they do care about their skin. We joke and say Latino women will not go to the grocery store without putting on their face. This one product catapulted they didn't have any other products that catapulted Argentina's to the top, successful people in our business going on a recent success trip to Europe. So what's our future? We're going to add more things. There's going to be free firmware upgrades, the skin collagen, we're going to measure that, anthocyanins, which is a class of antioxidants, the color purple, I call them. They tend to be purple or black. And it's really about gut and metabolic health. And some 80+% of Americans have very poor metabolic health. And there's, 6, 7, maybe 10 research universities, working with our technology and developing, other biomarkers and the ability to test it. This will be the most important, health testing device, bar none. The Ooma ring sells a lot, and you wear it and it tells you your blood pressure, I think, and, and it really tracks your sleep cycles. Your wearables, something like 35% of Americans now have a wearable, and that's our market so you got 350 million Americans plus. And so, if 1/3 of them have wearables, our market's 100 million people. So our goal is to place this, first in health professionals, and we'll talk about, what we've been doing to date. But really, we want to get it on the kitchen tables of families all over the world. By 1 million is by the end of this year. And what happens, we've done this, I think we had 25 of our top leaders had it in their families. And what we found is it sits on the kitchen table, and Johnny is late for school, and he's 8 years old, and he's spooning his dried cereal, his Cheerios into his mouth, and looking at his phone. And also he puts his finger on the Prysm. I don't know, he has 3 hands, but busy family. And he goes, "Mom, I have the same score as last week." And Mom said, "That's because you're not putting berries on your cereal. Mom, put berries on my cereal." And Linda, who's 16, comes home, and instead of chips, she has carrots with yogurt dill sauce maybe, and asks Mom to get those kind of stuff when she goes to Costco. Dad, maybe drinks less and smokes less, and Mom starts, thinking about her BMI a bit more. And basically the whole family, I compare the Prysm in on a family table is like the bathroom scale on January 9th. It's a wake-up call every single day. And you work to get it better. And in our eye practice and med spa on the Big Island, when patients come in, they know they're going to get scanned the next time. When you know it's going to be on the midterm, when you know you're going to get tested again, you work to get it better. And our goal is actually not by 2028. Sorry, that's a typo. By 2030, we want 10 million. We want to make America and the world healthy again. So choices matter, what you do, and particularly the lifestyle choices, and what we eat, and do we supplement, and are they good supplements? It matters. We all have our own choices. So we've had it out in the market in the U.S. at least for 2.5 months. What do we know so far? Well, we've scanned over 1 million, and this is incredible because we did 1 million with the original scanner when we launched in 2023, was it? It took us a year. So there are two settings for those of us who've used the Prysm. It's My Scan, and that's just for yourself. And that's people who aren't, active in the business, or they just want to scan themselves. A whopping 25% of people who are our first, our active distributors out there in the field are scanning in the top. They're scanning 750 to 1,000 on the device, and that's compared to 1% in the general population. Now, when we compare guests, there's a guest scan, which means you're scanning someone else. It's also very high. I'm very curious about this, and the reason is because those of us who are trying to put this into the market, we're trying to get subscriptions from it, and we'll talk about that, but. So we're going to go to health conscious people, and so trainers, estheticians, med spas, MDs. They're a bit of a struggle because they don't have any time to breathe. But the early adopters are health professionals, and hopefully they're paying attention to their own health. And I like to say, there are two attitudes toward this sort of thing: as knowledge is power, or ignorance is bliss. And what happens is a lot of people don't want to be scanned, and those are the people who are not going to score very well. So women, and what we found, everyone knows this, women are better at everything than men, and women score higher than we do. And it does seem to be the nutrition. So let's look at regions, and the US is, again, the low person on the totem pole. We're slipping in education, we know we're slipping in nutrition. We lead the world in obesity. So in Europe's a little higher. They have higher standards for the processed foods, for instance. And Asia is the highest. There's no data mentioned on the recent call on Latin America. And, one of the things is fish. If you look at, Asian cultures, and to some extent Europe, they eat more fish. And basically, healthy fats are necessary to improve carotenoid absorption. Some of the carotenoids are fat soluble. So, olive oil, avocados, and fish. So let's talk about best practices. How do you build a business with this? And there was an inviting technique introduced at the kickoff in January, and we've been training on it since. First of all, before you start inviting anyone, as soon as you get your scanner, scan yourself, scan everyone in your life. And then, once you kind of, get excited about it and are practice at scanning, use something called eThor. I'm excited. I've been in Nu-Skin for a while, but I'm really excited now. I'm in training with this new device. So please help me. And these are very powerful words in any language. Help is something that we're a cooperative species. We fight in the Middle East and Ukraine, and within families we fight all the time. But we're hardwired to cooperate, and just please help me is a very compelling thing to say. I value your opinion. I'd like you to look at something and then when you're scanning them, say this probably isn't for you. But I'd really love some referrals to people who are health conscious, or could see how we could monetize this. So always ask for referrals. It's the most important way to invite, always. So there's an assessment that was introduced also at kickoff, and is available and I'll give it to you here. Well, you'll get, I'm going to print this out as a PDF. But when someone gets this assessment, either just before or just after scanning, the closing to our products jumps from about 10 or 20%. Who cares? I got a number, I put my finger on it, versus, you need to kind of dig at what their concerns are. And that assessment really boosts our closing rate. So, it's great to scan people, but basically, most of us are in business and want to build volume and make money and build a sustaining annuity business. I don't know about you, but I want to. And therefore, the assessment really raises the success. So close to subscriptions. Once they've decided on a product, you've done the assessment and they're, how much do you want to spend? Oh, great. So we're going to get you on the ageLOC Youth. Now, do you want to save money? And most people will say yes. And go on subscription, you'll save 10%. It's free shipping if it's over $100. And look, this varies by country. I'm giving you the US, and I believe this is true in Canada. And you get free product credits every 3 months. And it's flexible. A lot of people are wary about subscriptions. Back when I was growing up, there was Columbia Records, which you would get a vinyl record every single month, but you couldn't cancel the subscription. And there are companies in network marketing. I won't name the M company, but it's very hard to cancel one of their subscriptions, which is a minimum of $70. Just try and we can. It's not a straitjacket or handcuff. You can cancel it. It's really flexible. You can go to every month, every other month, every 2 months, and you can add new products. You can change your address, everything. But the most important thing is you get a guarantee. There's no other company in the supplement industry that can guarantee results. There's no other company that can measure the results. So there's a really, two sides of the same coin. We can measure and therefore we can guarantee, but you have to be on subscription. And the guarantee for our supplements is 2 months and 3 months with the lower priced elements. This is what I found. When you get someone that says, great, you can send them a link to to join and then, recommend products, they get lost. We're all busy and, what is this? And where do I find the subscription? Don't take their information. You're going to lose 80% of your potential customers if you just send them an invite link, which you can get in your My Office on your website. You can get, the ability to invite as a retail customer, as a wholesale member, or as a income earning brand affiliate. Don't. It looks really easy. I'll just send them a link and they'll sign up and great, we're gonna make money the rest of my children's lives. No. They're too busy. The website is not, they probably understand Amazon and 1 or 2 other websites, but don't lose them in our website. So what do you need? This is I don't think this is different. I think every country, these are some of the things you need. You need their address, shipping and billing, the credit card, the number, expiry, CVV, all this is needed in order to place an order. So you need to take it. They need to trust you. And one thing that happens, I'm pretty sure this is true in every country, we use 2-factor authentication, every bank, everything now in your life. I think we're all familiar with this. We all spend most of our time trying to do things and entering a 6-digit code sent to our smartphone. So it's probably important, to get them, joined, very quickly. Otherwise, you're going to play chase saying, did you get the 6-digit code? Then don't play chase, because that's a bad game to play in anything. It's don't play chase in recruiting your distributors. Don't play chase in dating. It's, we used to say it's different now, but when I was growing up, we would chase girls until they caught us. So, you can show them the website when you do the rescan. It's very important to schedule the second. The most important scan is not the first one, but the second. So as soon as you scan them once, let's put it in our diary when we're going to rescan you, even if they don't order. Many people you're not going to close 100%, and just say, look, it's not for you, but why don't we let's have a coffee in a month and see how your scores changed. And, hopefully they're doing some things to improve their score. So social media, we've gotten some training from some really terrific people who use social media. And what they do is they say, look, if you're going to be all about Prysm, be all about Prysm. Don't, do the Lumi Spa, don't do the Well Spa, Renew Spa. And some of these people have tried it, and it just they became kind of and all of everything and none of anything. And just post on your personal page and alternate. One page is about the product and the Prysm, and some of the, maybe talk about some of your solutions, and then one about that this has created a subscription annuity income. And it's don't put in numbers, and I'm making $1,200 a month, but this is a great business that I can do in the cracks of a busy life, whatever it is. And to get whatever it is, use AI to generate posts. I don't know, if you've used either ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of them. It's amazing. You can, and Copilot comes free if you've got, Windows from Microsoft, and you just put in it, create a social media post for me that, says this and that, and they can, and then give me 20 variations for the next month. I recommend, if you're going to do social media, the guru of social media is a guy named Fraser Brooks. Get his daily wisdom. It's very short. And his kickoff was excellent back in January. Here's the link, and you can take a picture of this, or ask me for the PDF version of this, or just search on YouTube for Fraser Brooks kickoff. He really is excellent. Now, most of what he does is he's recruiting people to the business and not to getting a Prysm or getting on our supplements. He's top down. He's, are you looking for more money in your life? Would you be willing to spend 5 minutes looking at a presentation with me on creating more money without a lot of investment? This kind of thing. He's very top down or business oriented. So, what are some contents? The songs, and I think it's their sister, I believe. It's Marguerite. Is May your sister? I'm trying to remember, but it's with her.
Yes, May's my Pat's sister.
Pat's sister. Anyway, they have a little file in Messenger. Look this up, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. You, in any region and face, you've got New Skin, EMEA, New Skin, I think Southeast Asia, New Skin North America, and there's content there. They have pulled a lot of the content together into an Instagram page, New Skin Product Insider. And actually, in our website, I've been waiting for them to do this. You give us a website and have some marketing resources. If you go into Info Center, if you click on your name on at least the US website, and all the websites can differ across countries, and you just scroll down to the bottom, it says Info Center. It's awesome. I was just looking at it to get some things. I'm creating some little apps for follow-up. SmugMug, OTG puts a lot of their content. One Team Global puts a lot of their content, and you just go into SmugMug on your phone. Don't do it on your laptop because it's different, and just click on sharing in Newskin. And a go-to source for all kinds of pictures is images, Google Images, but they tend to be a little bit blurry. They're not the best resolution. So these are some examples on the left and right. From the right, I think, was done maybe by Dr. Stephen Moore, who's one of our real leaders with this. Is one I had my social media person create. So it's a lot of people have said, what about scan variants? And this has been an issue, particularly with some of the health professionals who really pay attention to it. And they should. Is the device accurate? Well, from one scan to the other, this thing is varying. And there's 3 Ps for it. One, you have to clean your hand. And this is in the Prysm assets there on our website. But, having lotion on your hand, or you think that your hands are clean and they're not so much. And they're little alcohol mini wipes that I bring along now, and we just, wipe their finger. You should wipe the lens each and every scan, and don't do it on your shirt, or your skirt or something. There's a chamois that comes with it, or that alcohol pad works just fine. recalibrate. Every 10 to 12 scans. If it's being used in high volume, yeah, you're going to have to take a break and set it up. And basically every day, if you're really out there, doing 3 scans a day, just overnight, when you're recharging it, the calibration takes what, 30 seconds, 45, because you're scanning your own finger. It's not a big deal. And then position, the prism should not be in your hand. Don't hold it out to people. Here, scan there, flat surface, stable. Make sure that their finger, and I always look carefully because sometimes there's a little bit of light that's escaping. Just abort the scan, or when they scan very low as a result, to type the rescan at the top left. Use the same finger. Oh, and some people want to be clever and show, oh, look, this isn't a valid thing. I'm going to do my left hand versus my right, left index finger versus right. Well, of course, because we drive, a lot of us, and, at least in the US, we drive on the right, and our left side of our face is exposed. There's some amazing pictures of truck drivers in the US who age like, they look like they're 200 years old on their left side of their face. Well, it's true on your hands. Your left hand is going to be more exposed to sunshine. And then last would be the pressure. A lot of people, you can almost see the blood drain from their finger. They're pressing so hard. They're always going to break the scanner. By the way, it is pretty tough. It takes a licking. So don't, just a light touch. So this is my eye practice and wellness center, and we scan every patient who walks through the door, and so should you. So, you deserve to know, and hopefully today you know a little bit more, and we'll open it up for questions, and I will take off.